Hey y'all, welcome to Adventures with Aggie, brought to you by the Ryan Martin Foundation. Just a little announcement, in case you didn't see, Adventures with Aggie recently partnered with Kickoff Coffee Co. We have a discount code that is AWA15, and you get 15% off of a bag of coffee on kickoffcoffeeco.com. So go check them out and look at their impact page to see all the lives they're changing with their coffee. Today on Adventures with Aggie, we have Lily Rice. Lily Rice is a disability sport Wales athlete in wheelchair motocross. If you don't know what that is, keep listening and Lily will tell us. Please welcome Lily. Lily, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show. So excited to learn more about you and your sport that I don't know that much about. But first, could you just kind of give us some background into who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Lily Rice. I'm 17 years old and I'm an elite WCMX athlete for Disability Sport Wales. I've been doing WCMX, or just skating is what I call it, for about 4 years now. And I'm the first European female to land a backflip in a wheelchair also.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't think I could do this sport well. I would love to try it, but I don't think I could do it. Very impressed. I was watching some videos of this and I think it's wild and so fun to watch too. But I guess just kind of backtracking a little bit. When did you first become interested in WCMX and how did this kind of grow?
So it was about 5 years ago when I saw a video online and I was just like, this is really, really cool and I want to try it out. And so I showed my parents it and they were a bit like, oh, it looks a bit dangerous, maybe not. You should stick to swimming, like that kind of thing. But I eventually convinced them and to take me to a live show called Nitro Circus, where I met the current men's world champion and I just watched him do his stuff and it was really cool. And then I was like, this is what I really, really want to do this. It's what I have to do. And I was really fortunate that he donated me a WCMX chair to start out in as well. So then that was when it really kicked off.
That's awesome. I think seeing it in person, makes you really, really want to do it. Watching it on TV is great, but I think having that opportunity to see it and meet people that do it now, which is so, so cool. I think that helps a lot to kind of put it in perspective, because I don't know, watching things on TV doesn't always look as exciting or impressive. Like there are some sports I can't watch on TV, but some I can watch in person, So I think having that in-person kind of interaction with it was awesome for you and kind of
definitely. I think watching live sports is just like a completely different experience to watching it online or on TV.
Definitely. I'm so glad you had that opportunity because it's obviously grown into amazing things for you in your life. But I guess could you just kind of start with telling us what it's like competing, kind of what you do to prep, and then maybe some of your favorite parts?
Yeah, of course. I've got to be honest with you. I am not best at prepping for competition. I kind of just, like, I don't really do anything special. I just kind of train a little bit more before competition comes up, but I don't want to overwork myself or stress myself out. So I kind of just chill before a competition and just train the same amount that I normally would. I'm not really too nervous when it comes to competitions. I quite enjoy them and I'm quite competitive getting into anything. So especially when it comes to sport, I'm just really competitive when it comes to that. Most of the skating competitions we have a few days before to get used to the skate park or the course. So we can get used to that, find lines in the skate park and tricks we want to do, figure it all out. And then we have the opportunity when it comes to the competition, it's either in 2-minute runs or 45-second runs. It's quite a big difference, depending on who's running the competition. And we'll just do that and we'll take it in turns to try and land best tricks or get a nice run in. And then it's all done very points of how fast you were, how high you were, and the how hard the trick is.
You say it as if it's nothing, right? Which I think is so crazy because I don't know, if I see a new skate park, I'm not sure I would look at it the same way that you would. But so cool. I love watching it. Like I said before, I just am so impressed with this sport because I've never done anything like it before. So knowing that this is what you do on a regular basis is crazy to me. But
yeah, it is pretty crazy when you think about it because I think still even though we are and me and lots of others are trying to build the amount of people riding. I think that still, if you think of wheelchair and skate park, you just don't think it really goes. But if you would think of like wheelchair basketball, just because it's like such, I guess, like wheelchair basketball and WCMX, they're just completely different levels of sport, really. Like WCMX hasn't had the exposure that basketball's had. So like I just think that it's all about like raising participants, especially in the UK for me, but then all around the world as well. Just building that up, really.
Definitely,
Goal.
for sure. How are you doing that? I know like you have your platform that I'm sure you're advocating for this sport to grow and everything, and I'm sure Disability Sport Wales is kind of pushing you. But yeah, how do you see yourself kind of helping to grow this sport?
So I'm working with USA Skateboarding to get WCMX and adaptive skateboarding into the Paralympics by 2028. So right now we're more in the phase of just like building up participants, getting more people involved, doing demos and clinics. And then we're also now looking at classification for that, because obviously that's quite a big thing in parasport. And a lot of people have a lot of opinions on how classification should work in all the different sports as well. Yeah, so we're looking into that while trying to like get more participants involved. And in the UK, it's going pretty well. We've recently had the second WCMX Jam in the UK, which is a non-competitive event to get more people involved. So we had people who've been riding for a few years, and then we had people who it's their first time going there. And it's just a big inclusive environment where everyone gets to have a go and show off what they've learned within that few hours.
That's so cool. It's awesome that you're growing this, and I can't wait to see it grow even more over the next few years. And hopefully in 2028, I'll be watching from over here in New York, cheering for all of you guys. But awesome. I want to kind of ask you about some of your highlights and accomplishments. Do you have anything in your career that kind of stick out as maybe your favorite wins, successes, or anything like that?
Definitely. I think I get asked this quite a lot. So I'm always like, oh, I don't know which one, but I think I've got a top three now of like things that have happened, maybe 4 or 5. But
Perfect.
I would say winning the World Championships in 2019, obviously, that is a big highlight and a big achievement too. So that was just really nice to like show that all my hard work had paid off, really. And it was nice to be recognized on that level of skating, especially having that one competition was in Europe as well. So that was really awesome. Then another highlight would be the Radio 1 Teen Awards in 2018. That was a pretty crazy event. It was held in one of the big arenas in London, and there was like us guys who were like receiving awards from Radio 1 for the different things we've been doing. And then there was also like top bands and singers playing there. So there's like 5 Seconds of Summer, Liam Payne, all sorts kind of there. And that was really cool. And it was just completely different to any other event I've been to. And then another one would have been when I was out in LA, I bumped into James McAvoy, an actor from the X-Men, and he invited me along to one of their movie premieres. So that was pretty cool too.
Those are three like crazy moments. That's wild.
Yeah,
Love that for
it
you.
is crazy to look back.
Wow, that's crazy. I have to say I love One Direction. So Liam Payne was my highlight of your three
Yeah,
highlights.
I've got to say I love Little 1D too.
I love it so much. Wow. Amazing successes. I'm sure there are lots more in your future. Can't wait to be cheering you on. But just kind of, I have a series of questions to, I guess, one, I want to talk about some new tricks and things that you're working on, and then kind of do our wrap up series of questions. So you've landed your backflip, super exciting. Congrats, that's crazy. What new tricks are you working on or trying to learn right now?
I'm currently working on a trick called an invert. I've been trying it for over a year now. So there's kind of like 3 levels up to the hand plat invert thing. So I'd say like the first thing is a trick called a layback, which is when you go up a ramp forwards, lean backwards, put one hand down, and then you lean forwards and pop back up, if that kind of makes sense. It's really hard to explain tricks like this. And then a hand plant is when you kind of put that in, but instead of just going up and down, you turn with your hand on the ground. And that is the point I'm at now. And I'm currently at that point trying to get higher and higher, and just then try and get to the invert, which is when you do that, but your wheelchair comes out of the ramp and you have to flick it around and land back, turn in the air, which is pretty crazy to try and explain and think about and do it all at the same time. So I'm working on that. There have been a few attempts when I've been really close. So it's all just about getting the speed up and getting the right technique and finding a nice ramp where I can do that on, which has been quite difficult, especially with all the lockdowns recently. And then I'm also working on one wheel technical bits. So that's not really specific. It's more just doing little bits on a one wheel balancing, trying to keep that going consistently and put it into different lines.
You did great describing it. I can picture it a little bit. I'm not sure if it's correct, but I'm picturing something crazy in my mind. So that's good. I want to kind of ask you a follow-up to that. COVID wise, have you been able to practice and train and everything during the last year? I feel like this could be a socially distant sport, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of like social distance sport, but then it's also a really big inclusive community at the same time. So because it is an individual sport, you are able to go out and train on your own. But I think the community aspect of the skate community is so much bigger. Even though it's an individual sport, it feels like you're one big team. So with the first lockdown, because in Wales, I think we had 3 or 4 lockdowns. So with the first one, we weren't able to use the skate park, and the same with the second one. And then the third one was a bit mix and match, like you could use the outdoor ones, but not the indoor ones. And my local skate park is about 30, 40 minutes, depending on what the traffic's like, what time we're going, because there's lots of schools in the area. So that's quite nice. It's not too far, but not too close at the same time. So it's nice to have that, and it's a really good environment up there, and that's where I train the most. And then there's also an indoor skate park in Cardiff, which is another place where I train when the weather's not as nice, but that place has been closed and now finally opening back up after the lockdowns.
Awesome. Good to know. I had no idea that there were that many lockdowns and 2 indoor and outdoor skate parks and 3 that you're doing there all the time. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think you can build skate parks with so many different materials. Like you see concrete skate parks, wooden ones, metal ones, and then there's all different types of like surfacing you can put over the top of them as well. So it's pretty crazy. And then having like a suitable place to put them, which is quite difficult, which is why, because I live in quite a rural area, it is like to get to the skate parks can be a few hours drive.
Yeah. Another follow-up here. What is the difference in the surface and how does that kind of impact you?
Concrete skate parks are probably the nicest, and then like wooden skate parks are about the same as well. Concrete skate parks, what you tend to find outside, there's not many indoor concrete skate parks, and there's only a few like contractors that build the concrete ones in the UK. Concrete, it's all about like the type of wheels you put on your wheelchair or on your skateboards. So with the wheelchair, because I have tires, I do have more grip, but the skateboarders, it's more all about like what type of wheels you have. So you want softer wheels if you're on wooden, so it sticks a bit better, because the wood can be a bit slidey, and then the concrete's pretty grippy. So you want the harder wheels for that then. I think I prefer training on wood and concrete. And then there's also like a surface to go on the wood called Skate Light, which is really nice, and it's like softer wood again. But metal ramps are not my best friend at all.
Got it. Appreciate the technical information. Didn't know there were that many options, but great. I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I walk in my park right down the street. I walk by a concrete one all the time, and I'm like, wow, those people are so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see, 3 more questions for you. This is kind of our last series of questions here. But what is something that you have learned about yourself through WCMX?
I think I've learned a lot about myself through WCMX. I think not just myself, but my confidence developed as well. I think really just like sport in general is so good for your mental health, having a sport, whatever it be. But for WCMX, for me, just really like built my character up, built my confidence up. More of like personality change than anything, but like in a good way. I think sports just been really good for me, really.
Me too. Can't say I'm a competitive athlete anymore, but I agree from my old sporting days many years ago. Awesome. Next one for you. Who would you say inspires you or drives you to kind of get to where you are now? Maybe a mentor or an important person, or maybe an important moment or something that kind of pushes you.
Yeah, I think the guys at Disability Sport Wales have been pretty helpful. Then also my dad, who's going to go like, well, hey, you've mentioned me in the podcast or something like that now. But he's been pretty helpful, along with one of the Welsh rugby players, Ian Goff. They've been both quite helpful. And then my best mate, Daisy, who's a skateboarder as well. I think having another female in a male-dominated sport's really nice, and we bonded quite well because of that. And now we skate together a lot and just push each other. So that's really helpful with the sport as well.
Absolutely. That's an awesome circle of people you got there. Great. Last question for you. I end all of my shows on advice. So what is one piece of advice you would give to younger Lily?
That's a hard one. I think that's a really hard one. It would probably be something like, you've got this. I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but I think you've got this is a good one, because I did have a lot of struggles when I was getting into sport, but as like I mentioned, throughout sport, I've kind of come up my shell and my confidence is a lot better. So it would just be like, you've got this. It's all going to get better soon. Something like that.
Cheesy or not, it's great advice. I love it. Awesome. Well, Lily, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and telling us so much more about WCMX.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had a great time.
Lily, thank you so very much for coming on the show and sharing your story and introducing a new type of sport to Adventures with Aggie. Join us next week as we start a new series of episodes on Adventures with Aggie featuring Alabama adapted sport.